places to be this afternoon. And everybody in the room just took a deep breath because they know when a Pentecostal preacher says he's not preaching long, you're in for a long day, right? But I'll do my best this morning to move us right along as I give you what the Lord gave me for the Word this morning. And I want to know, before I get started, how many of you have a Christmas list? How many of you had a Christmas? Oh my goodness, y'all are fibbing to me this morning. Nobody wants to raise their hand and admit they had a Christmas list, checking it twice. Everybody knows what they want for Christmas. You know, and especially in this commercialized age which we live in, where everything that you want is at Walmart or Amazon, our lists are wider and greater than they've ever been. But this morning, let's look over at Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 and 2, and then 10 and 11. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. Verse 10, And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Well, that Christmas list that you've been filling out came all the way back from this day right here. Right. When we find those three gifts that were given by the three wise men, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, they came because they had saw a star. They were wise because they were able to discern the star. And they were wise enough to bring gifts that were befitting the baby that was laying in that manger. They brought gold because the gold was befitting his royalty. What do you bring a king when you come to his birthday party? You better bring something worthy of his royalty. And so they started out, they brought the gold, number one, because of his royalty. And then they brought number two, the frankincense, because frankincense was a pure white incense. It was brought out of it was scarred like we do maple syrup. They scar a tree. The frankincense bled out of the frankincense bush. They collected it. It was a type of incense, and not only was it white in its liquid form, but when it burned, it gave off a pure white pungent smoke. That was brought as a pure white incense to represent the sinless nature of his sacrifice. The fact that he would be a man that would never commit sin, and that he would be absolutely sinless in his lifetime. That third gift that was brought, myrrh, it had a whole different connotation. The first one, the gold, was for his royalty. The second one, the frankincense, because of his sinless nature. But this third one was a mighty strange gift to bring a baby. That myrrh was the aloe, that was the scent that they put in the aloe, that they rubbed dead bodies down with before they wrapped them in their grave clothes and put them in the grave. We say these three men are wise. What wise man brings a baby the smell of death? But here we find the gold for his royalty, the frankincense for his sinless nature, and we find the myrrh coming in to represent the fact that he soon would die a death of sacrifice for all mankind, one sacrifice for all man's sins. It represented the fact that he was going to die not only for his nation, but for all humanity.
Yes, amen.
And those of us who would be wise today, and be discerning and understanding, I would ask you this question. If those three wise men had enough sense to bring gold for his royalty, frankincense for his sinless nature, and myrrh for his impending death, what would we in the wisdom of this day bring to our King?
That's good.
What's on G? Every one of you hiding the fact while ago, have a Christmas list. You had things secretly that you hope would show up on the list. But what would be on Jesus' Christmas list this morning? Tomorrow's his birthday. What's on Jesus' list, we would ask? What are the gifts that he would covet this morning? And I would say, let's look in the Scripture. Surely the Bible would tell us what would be on Jesus' Christmas list this morning. So in Matthew chapter 23, verse 37, I find what you might find as an odd scripture here for Christmas. But, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that kills the prophets, and stone them which are sent unto thee. How often I would have gathered my children together, even as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you would not come. And so number one thing I find that would be on Jesus' Christmas list this morning, or his wish list for this Christmas season for his birthday, is he would long that he would have his children under his arms. He would long that they would come to him when he calls. He would long to have their presence around him. You know, we had Christmas with my mother yesterday, and I'll have Christmas with my dad tomorrow. And as we pull all the families together, my mom, right before we got started yesterday, she stood up before she prayed over the meal. And she said, I know we've got gifts that were brought for each and every one, for everybody. We're exchanging gifts today. But I will tell you this for all of you. You are my greatest gift that I could have. Every year when we ask my dad, what do you want for Christmas? And his birthday's right there close. We'll say, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for birthday? And invariably, his answer has always been and continues to be, I just want us all to get together. I don't care if you get me anything. And so we find Jesus the same way this morning. Jesus would look at us and say, I don't really want anything from your hand. I just want you to be with me. I want your presence. I want you to come and gather around me. I want you to be there when I call. I want to be able to look up and see your beautiful and smiling face. I long to feel your presence close to me. I long for you to come and just sit beside me a while and put your arm around me and tell me how much you love me. I long to be able to look deep into your eyes and know that you and I are one. I long to feel your love for me. I long to have that compassion and that passion from your heart to mine. That would be his number one thing on his Christmas list this morning. Yeah. Just your presence. Matthew chapter 11 verse 28. Come unto me all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. You see, he wants us to come to him. So if I look at, I'm going to move on pretty quickly here this morning. Number one thing he would want is he would want you near him. Number two, I skipped Matthew 15:8. I needed to read. The people draw nigh me with their mouth, honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. You see, he really wants you close. But he wants more than your lip service. He wants all your heart.
Yes, that's it.
He wants your presence near him, but he wants all your heart. He says, if you will come to me, I will give you rest. He longs to have your presence near him. Revelations chapter 3 verse 15 and 16. He says, I know your works, that you are neither hot nor cold, but you are lukewarm. Because you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth. I would that you were hot or cold. What is the number one thing on Jesus' Christmas list? It's not just you. It's not just you with all your heart, but it's you full of passion. He wants you pursuing him. He wants you hot on his trail. He wants you hot or cold, useful for the kingdom. He longs for you to draw near unto him and burn with passion for him.
Amen.
Matthew 22:37, Jesus said unto them, you'll love your Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength. That's God's number one desire for your life. That's God's number one desire in this Christmas season. He doesn't necessarily want you to put up a tree. I don't think he cares one drop about that tree. He don't care anything about the ornaments on it. That's just what we do in the trappings of this earth. But what means more to him than anything is that we will draw up close to him and be hot with passion for him, to want to be there, to want to be with him, to want to be near him, to have a heartbeat down inside of us filled with passion for him.
Amen.
Jeremiah chapter 20 verse 12 says this, but O Lord of hosts, thou triest the righteousness, and you see the reins and the hearts of a man. You see, you just can't fool God.
Right. That's right.
You just can't fool God. You can pull up close to God, and if your mind's somewhere else, he knows it. You can pull up close to God and go through all the motions. I could have went to my mom's yesterday. I could have sat down and ate her ham and homemade rolls. I could have been there for a while and gave presents, and my heart could have been far somewhere else. I could have been wishing I was on the lake. I could have been wishing I was out riding my four-wheeler. Right. I could have been anywhere else in my heart and my mind, and I could have put on a good face and a good smile and ate her food, but my heart been far from my mama, and I might have fooled my mama.
Right. Right.
But you're not going to fool your king.
That's right.
You see, he longs for me to want him. He longs for me. He tries my heart and my reins. Revelations chapter 2 verse 4 says, nevertheless, I have somewhat against you because you left your first love. Number one thing on Jesus' Christmas list for this season, I want your first love back.
Yes.
Oh, I want your first love back. I want you to love me with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And I'm going somewhere with this morning, and I'm trying to get there pretty quickly. You see, Jesus looks and sees all the adulterous places of our heart.
Yes, He does.
Now, when I'm talking about adultery, I'm not talking about outright blatant sin. I'm talking about the places of my heart that wish they were somewhere else in the middle of church. My places of my heart that wishes they were somewhere else when the Spirit of God started moving. That distracted place of me. You see those places where my passion is waning. Abba knows every one of those places. He sees the hearts and the reins of a man. You see, what happens is sometimes my appetites change. In this room, could you raise your hand and admit to me that at some point in your life your appetites changed? Yeah, I used to absolutely hate asparagus. I'll eat it all the time now. Broccoli was never on my high list, but I really like broccoli now. My appetites have changed. Things that I used to like, I don't like anymore. And things that I used to absolutely hate, I love to eat them now because my appetites have changed. And as we go through the course of life, our appetites oftentimes change. Our appetite is oftentimes controlled by our environment and our access or exposure. Yes. Right. Think about it. Right. Your appetites oftentimes are controlled by your exposure. If I had never been exposed to coffee, I probably wouldn't be a coffee drinker today. Right. But I was exposed to it over and over and over. I think I've told y'all the story before. I used to work at Cheeks Wholesale, and in the wintertime it was really, really cold back in the warehouse. And all these old men would walk up there up front, and they'd get them a cup of coffee and carry that stuff around, steaming out the top, sipping on that, acting like it was good and like it was warming them up. So I tried it. It was absolutely rotten. I hated it. But they loved it. And so I continued to involve myself in the exposure of coffee. I'd carry it around till it got so cold in the cup that it wasn't any good anymore, and I'd throw it away and go get another hot cup and carry that thing around and try to sip at it and sip at it. And you know, today my appetite is hot for coffee. I like coffee. Didn't like it at all when I first got started. And like I said, there's other things in my life that I absolutely love then, and my appetite's wane. Why? Because my exposure has changed.
Right. That's right.
I don't expose my life to that as much as I used to anymore. And so because of that, our appetites do change over time. And unfortunately, sometimes our appetites seem to have a mind of their own. Right. Anybody ever woke up one morning and it went through your mind, I want beans and cornbread for supper? Yeah. And you set that in your mind, and you didn't get it today, and you didn't get it the next day, and a week later, all you can think about is beans and cornbread. Got to get me some beans and cornbread, and that appetite stayed with you until you finally got down somewhere with a plate of cornbread and a bowl of beans in front of you, and finally your appetite was satisfied. Anybody ever been through that? Could have been chocolate gravy. It could have been a peanut butter cake. I don't know. Whatever it is that your appetite was chasing after. But sometimes our appetites change, and they seem to have a mind of their own for no rhyme or reason. Unfortunately, Daniel chapter 12 verse 4 says in the last days, men will run to and fro. And that actual word to and fro means will be driven by their appetites. Right. We find that we live in a day and age right now where we oftentimes will be driven by our appetites. Yes. And what happens is sometimes because of our exposure, we begin to have an appetite for the Father that begins to wane and an appetite for something in the world that begins to grow. And the next thing I know, that appetite gains traction in my life, and where I used to be drawn to the presence of the Father, now I'm being drawn to the Dallas Cowboys in football. And I know I used to want to pursue my Father. Now I find myself reading the sports page where I used to read my scripture. Now I find myself listening to the radio and listening to the news broadcast coming out of Dallas telling me what Jerry Jones is going to do next. And the next thing I know, one appetite is waning because of exposure, and the other appetite is growing because of exposure. And then it seems like my appetite takes on a life of its own. The next thing I know, I always want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. I have to watch every game. Why? Because I exposed my appetite to that thing, and it took on a life of its own.
That's good.
And Jesus looks at me and says, you left your first love. Yeah. How did that happen? That's a waning of an appetite. You used to have an appetite for me and it began to wane. And you left your first love. How did that happen? It happened because I was beginning to pay attention to an adulterous appetite.
Right.
And this is my Christmas sermon. Here's what Jesus wants you to do for his birthday. What could you give Jesus? You're not the little drummer boy. You can't come play a drum for him.
Right.
What does Jesus want you to do for him for Christmas this year? What does he want you to bring him as a gift? Jesus wants your first love back.
Yes, he does.
Jesus wants your first love back.
Good.
And I want to tell you something. You can be just like David. In Psalm chapter 51 and verse 10, David cried out, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." And did you know you can say that over and over and over and over, but if you don't do nothing about it, it will change you none?
Right. Right.
I want to use my wife and I as an example for this morning. Did you know that if my wife and I start spending enough time apart, our appetite for one another would wane?
Right.
If I was never where she was at and she was never where I was at, and we never sat down and ate a meal together, and she always just went and did her thing and I always just went and did my thing, our appetite for one another would begin to wane. And it wouldn't be long that waning appetite would create a separation between us, and it would come to the day that her and I would say about one another, "I just don't love her like I used to. She don't just do it to, she don't turn on my fire like she used to. I don't feel about her like I used to. I still love her, but not that way anymore."
My goodness.
How did that happen? Because of exposure, a waning appetite.
Right.
Because we no longer had that passion between us anymore to be together and to be with one another, and the appetite began to wane. And did you know if that happened between us, I could wake up every morning and say, "Man, I wish Blenda and I were close again. Man, I really, I just really wish that my heart could be clean towards my wife again. And man, I just really wish I had a right spirit within me again." And get up and sneak out of the house before she woke up and get back in my fishing boat and go fishing all day long and not spend any time with her, never text her, never call her, come back in after supper's done produced and done cleaned up and put away, go through and say, "Hi, darling, how are you?" Get my shower and go to bed 2 hours before she does, because I'm getting up early the next morning to go fishing. And guess what? I can say I wanted a clean heart 10,000 times, and I wished I had passion for my wife again 10,000 times, but if I don't change my behavior, our exposure will continue to wane, and my appetite will continue to die.
Amen.
Now, there's only one way. There's only one way to bring your appetite under control. Hold on. We'll give you a really good word for you this morning. This is what I really feel like Jesus wants out of this church for Christmas. There's only one way to bring your appetite physically and spiritually under control and to reset it and return it back to its pure place. And here it is. It's a 4-letter word. F-A-S-T, fast.
Yes.
It's a fast. Now I've got all your attention. I got you really thinking hard. Got your forehead all wrinkled up this morning, looking at me over your own eyebrows going, "You mean to tell me I have got 7 pies at the house? I got a ham in the oven. I have got deviled eggs, homemade bread. I got to eat at 2 places today and 4 places tomorrow. And you're standing up there and you're going to preach about fasting on Christmas Eve? You got to be out of your mind, preacher." Well, I want to tell you, you don't have to have it for Jesus for Christmas by tomorrow.
Right.
But I want to tell you, Jesus wants your appetite back.
Yes.
Jesus wants your appetite back. What is on his number one thing on Jesus' Christmas list? If Jamie was to pull up Jesus' personal Christmas list for Jamie, it would say, "A burning, passionate heart." And then Charles, go pull out his page from Jesus, for Jesus' Christmas list for Charles. And it says, "A burning and passionate heart."
That's good.
Yes.
And both those guys could stand around all for the next month and say, "Man, I really want to make Jesus happy. I want a burning and passionate heart for my King," and talk about it and talk about it. But unless they do more than talk, nothing will change.
Amen.
And Jesus wants your heart on fire, filled with passion for Him for Christmas this morning. And the only way to do it is a fast. As Abba sees my heart being drawn for Him, He will always draw me to a fast because it brings my appetite to a place of change. And a fast without prayer is nothing but a diet. So the way you reset your appetite is this. You call yourself a fast before the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. You establish it for a day or two after Christmas or whenever you need to do it. But sometime in the very near future, you call yourself a fast. You establish it before your King. And every moment that you would have spent doing whatever you're fasting, eating or fishing or whatever it was, you find yourself a time of prayer. And I will assure you, your fasting will reset your appetite, but your prayer will renew your spirit. And in the middle of that, you'll find yourself with a new love for your King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And one more time, you'll be able to stand before Him and He will say this, you found your first love. That's what Jesus wants for Christmas. A fast of anything that's distracting. A fast of anything that's pulling me away from His presence. A fast of anything that's capturing my mind away from Him. And I know it's the holiday season, but I'm calling you to a fast.
Right.
A fast for the presence of the King of Kings and for the Lords of Lords. Will you give in? Will you submit and pay the price? You know, we will charge the credit card to the max to buy those earthly gifts.
Right.
We'll save and scrimp to get our wife or our husband or our children that perfect gift. But Jesus is saying the perfect gift for me is a passionate heart.
Amen. Yes.
A heart filled with passion, your first love.
Yes.
And the price in the physical realm for that is a fast. And so this morning I want to ask, will you fast a distraction? I'm going to give you some parameters. I'm going to ask for this. I'm going to put words in Jesus' mouth today. I know that's dangerous and I probably shouldn't do it, but I'm going to this one time. Jesus wants you to fast for one day, at least.
Right.
But I want to ask, for Jesus, I want to ask you to call yourself a 24-hour fast.
Yes.
You say, what do you want me to fast, Pastor? Fast some kind of distraction.
Right.
Fast your radio. You know, if you really want a good one, fast your television.
Right.
Turn that dude off 8 p.m. one night and don't turn it on until the next day's breakfast.
Right.
Don't turn it on at all the whole next day. And every minute that you would have spent looking at that box, spend it either reading or praying. Reading your Bible or praying. 24 hours. You want to fast food? Great. I'll talk to you about that. Even more in the days to come. But somehow, some way, in the very near future, I want to ask you to fast 24 hours. Fast something.
Yes.
For your King.
Hallelujah.
For Christmas. For Jesus this year.
Yes.
Reset your appetite. Turn your heart to Him. And give Him all. Everybody bow your head. Father, I thank you for your presence here this morning. Father, I have felt you here so real. And Father, I ask that today, that this worship would have been a gift. That you would have received it as a sweet-smelling incense, a gift of our worship to you today. Here on this day that we celebrate as your birth. Father, I pray as we leave this place, that this presence that's here with us and for the next 24 hours as we go through all the families and the celebrations and the gift giving and receiving and all the hubbub. Father, I pray that this song will be flashing in the back of our mind like a little Christmas light. Passion for my King. Passion for my King. Passion for my King. Father, I pray over every person in this room that they will grab a hold of this. And sometime in the very near future, even before the first of the year, that they will give you a day. A day to reset their appetites. A day to reignite their fire. A day of fasting and prayer. And Father, as we do this as a corporate body, in one mind and one accord, I pray, Father, that this will be the best Christmas that Bell's Chapel people have ever given you. A Christmas gift of a burning heart. A Christmas gift of passion. The Christmas gift of a reignited first love. That you would look at us and say, truly, that's a bunch of people that are hot. Filled with passion. That you will look at our hearts and our reins, and you will truly see us with a heart for you, my King. And I thank you for it, my King. I praise you. Well, everybody's got their head bowed. I know it's already a few minutes after 12, but I would be remiss if I didn't do this. Is there anybody here you need to find Jesus Christ as your Savior before you leave? Anybody?